Hiya and welcome. I am Sabrina, and this is Every 7 Years, a podcast inspired by the fact that every 7 years you essentially have a new body. And this body has been created by you, by your habits, your choices, your environment, your lifestyle. Like nature, you are constantly cycling and rebuilding. And just like a tree requires ample water and nutrients, fresh air and sunlight, you too require constant attention and proper care. But in today's society, we've become really distracted and very good at ignoring the cues our body shows us. But your sensitivity is a superpower. So if you are curious about how to become more of your favorite you, join me here every week for deep dives intended to inspire you to uncover the wisdom within us all so that you can live with more ease, confidence, and joy. Well, it was bound to happen eventually. It was bound to happen that I record an entire episode and have something bunk up. I got to recheck my Chani app and the astrology for me personally for the week to see if it did mention that there was going to be a hiccup, because I just did a 2-hour deep dive on the sun and sunlight, which has been one of my most beloved topics over the last, I'd say 2 years. And why I say 2 years is because I purchased the domain sun.me 2 years ago when I kind of first started getting into healthy sunlight practices and wanting to lie out in the sun and trying to basically search for anything I could that would support my natural feeling of wanting sun and tan and being in that warmth and being outside during the daytime. Like, why I look forward to that so much. I kind of always want to back up with research and facts. It's why I'm such a great projector and why I even started this podcast, because I'm just curious about things from my own body's perspective and point of view, and if they help other people, because as I've learned, 99.9% of our DNA is shared, then maybe the things that help me can help you. And one of those things has been getting sunlight. My gosh. So today I want to talk about how avoiding the sun, not getting sun, how avoiding the sun can be just as risky for our health as smoking. And that's just kind of like the clickbaity way of explaining how we are finding now that insufficient sunlight exposure can lead to an increased incidence in almost every single disease. There is not one functionality in your body that does not benefit from getting healthy sunlight. So I want to share today how you can get healthy sunlight, how to obviously avoid unhealthy sunlight, what the real truth is behind skin cancer and many other cancers. I want to share my own practices, such as sun gazing and getting sunlight first thing in the morning, which you've heard me talk about before, but going a little bit more in depth on the science of some of these things. As usual, when I do these deep dives, they are from a very long-winded place of research and personal feelings and personal findings. And one of these findings in my research is from a study that was done in July of 2020 that published, and I quote, that insufficient sun exposure may be responsible for 340,000 deaths in the United States each year and 480,000 deaths in Europe every year. And the quote continues, an increased incidence of breast cancer, colorectal colon cancer, hypertension, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's disease, autism, asthma, type 1 diabetes, and myopia. That is a long list of many things. It is being shown now that lack of sunlight shows an increased incidence of nearly every disease. And I did further digging to see, is there evidence of this before 2020, like before this July 2020 article? And I found another study that was done in 2004, and I'll link both in the show notes. And that's nearly 20 years ago. So I was like, interesting. What did they find about insufficient sun 20 years ago? And 20 years ago, they still were like, insufficient sun is killing people. And back then in 2004, they were estimating 45,000 Americans each year died from insufficient sun that led to internal cancer. So we have been fed in this society that the sun causes cancer. And what a generalization. That is actually the opposite of the truth. If you were to generalize, you could say that the sun heals cancer and prevents cancer. However, like a lot of media that is trying to sell something like sunscreen and sunglasses and chemicals and things that you require and devices and pharmaceuticals to cure from these diseases, skin cancer that is caused from the sun isn't because of the sun. It's because when you expose yourself to sun and you're full of toxins and the standard American diet and seed oils, the harmful midday UV rays get magnified at the surface of our skin. And so this absolutely can lead to skin cancer for sure. And so I, in this episode, do not want to discount that harmful sun and getting sunlight at the wrong times while having the wrong diet and being in the wrong environment and yes, could lead to skin cancer. However, with confidence, I can say that getting healthy, proper sunlight, making sure that you're increasing your melanin in a slow and steady way, helps prevent cancer 100%. And so that's why I want to talk about this today. And not only does it prevent cancer, but it helps with the health of, like I was saying, every single function in your body. Your hormones rely on getting sunlight. Your circadian rhythm and your sleep revolves around getting proper sunlight. Your stress and your mood is directly related to getting enough sunlight. Hundreds of vitamins and minerals are produced by sunlight and received through the skin. So today I want to kind of go over everything that I know about the sun and sunlight, and not from an astronomical perspective, but more from a health perspective. I also did an astronomy program, oddly, like 2 years ago. Not oddly at all. I'm very interested in this stuff. And so we are in a time where there are greater solar flares and the sun's activity has increased. This is true. And so it's all the more important that you know how to get healthy sunlight so that it benefits your beauty, your form, your function, and all of those things, and learn some tools and tricks to decrease the negative impacts of either not getting enough sun or getting sun at the wrong times or getting UV light from other things such as our devices. So we're going to go into all of that today. So let's get a little more comfortable and unpack this. For most of human life on Earth, we have lived in the sun. You know, our ancestors used the sun and heat and sweat as medicine. Nature was medicine. Earth was medicine. They understood and had reverence for the sun, which was this one thing that prolonged life on Earth. The sun was responsible and is responsible for plants growing, for us living. If we didn't have the sun, we literally would not have life. We would not have vegetation. We would not have animals. We would not have anything living or thriving. But it wasn't to be worshipped necessarily, I don't believe. Like I think we've been led to believe. It wasn't through this worship, like through the lens of religion or Christianity. They simply respected and paid homage and lived with this respect and reverence for the sun. And with this understanding that without it, life on Earth would not exist or function. To go back to my favorite place, once again, ancient Egypt, they had a process of sun gazing. And in many of the hieroglyphics and illustrations, it is depicted them staring into the sun. And there's also evidence that ancient Egyptians had this knowledge of the sun's ability to decalcify the pineal gland, the little pine cone shaped tiny gland that is our third eye, in other words. Ancient Egyptians were all about sun gazing in the morning. And that's hopefully going to become all the rage and popular now. And I have seen it kind of crop up on social, maybe just because I've been researching the topic more, but I just have to laugh at the absurdity and predictability of life sometimes, you guys. Everything seems to cycle and repeat. And perhaps, you know, in this time, in the 2000s or whatever, we are finally reacquainting with the powers and the wisdom of nature. You know, we have had knowledge before, and we've lived aligned with nature and spirituality before. We've used plants and spices and herbs to heal. And then in the next century or 100 years, we are burning witches. In the 1400s, we're all about essential oils. And then the bubonic plague hits, and we are sentencing healers and herbalists to death. Hopefully this time around in life's cycle, we don't shoot the messengers. But I also think we're not in that age where we do. If you have been paying attention to any astrology or astronomy, we actually have entered the age of Aquarius again. We are in the light ages where truth comes out. And I think that one of these truths has been that the sun is healing, that the sun is something that we should be working with and not fearing. So I have faith that this message will find the right ears, and that anybody who wants to attack me, because this has happened before when I bring things like this up, that it doesn't bug me. And also that maybe they hear something that follows them and helps them in the future. Anyways, back to the sun is healing us, not harming us. And I feel like that is a truth that is now finally coming out and getting explored more, and with a lot more research to back it, aside from just common sense and looking at photos of even our parents and grandparents out in the sun and knowing that the incidence of skin cancer back then was so not as prevalent as it is now. What else might it be that we're doing? It's not just that the sun gives us cancer. If that were the case, we would have seen evidence of this all throughout history in so many more incidences. Poor sun. It has just gotten such a bad rap lately. And it's even funny that we have sayings like, protect yourself from the sun, when the sun is protecting us. What the hell? It's such a shame that this free and accessible tool that literally improves the health of everybody has become so divisive. And what I've learned the most about these polarizing topics, though, is that they are usually the ones to look more into, because there's something being covered up somewhere and there is money being made somewhere. I just think being afraid of the one thing that provides life and sustains life on Earth is one of the greatest manipulations. And why it works is because they prey on these half-truths, which is that the sun can cause cancer if we live out of whack with the natural processes of Earth. So I want to help bring justice to the sun. It doesn't just cause skin cancer and poor aging or burns. Fully, it can do these things if it's effed with. And so that's what I want to discuss today, so that we can learn how to better understand the sun and use the sun. So because, like me, I think you guys like stats and science behind things, let's rattle some off. Outside of, 500,000 people in Europe and almost 500,000 in the US alone dying because of lack of sun, lack of sun exposure is also associated with higher rates of breast and colon cancer. Yes, that's right. You can look it up further if you want to, and I will link studies in the show notes. But why is this? Is because vitamin D on your skin doesn't stay on your skin. It ends up seeping into the deepest recesses of your body and helps with every cell function. And if you believe that, then if you do have breast or colon cancer, sunning your breasts and your genitals might actually be a great practice for you. I'm not kidding. I know this sounds like it might be a joke. It is absolutely not. Genital sunning has become quite a popular health practice, at least in the underground communities, or maybe more above ground communities now that I'm a part of. And in these communities, they also mention that it helps increase and boost testosterone, specifically in men who have low T. Sunning your genitals might be a fantastic practice, which would then just bunk the saying, where the sun don't shine, or hit them where the sun don't shine, because, well, where is that now? I digress. Sun exposure also elevates our nitric oxide levels. So nitric oxide is also released when we hum, like I discussed before in the sound healing podcast. But guess what else gives us nitric oxide and boosts them in our body and our production? Sun exposure. How cool. And nitric oxide helps our body relax, which also helps our blood vessels relax. So specifically, sun exposure leading to elevated nitric oxide will actually end up reducing high blood pressure. If you have hypertension or any cardiovascular disease, or even risk of cardiovascular disease, getting sunlight is such a healthy practice to boost your nitric oxide, which will help all of those blood vessels relax, help your heart, help your blood pressure, and it feels good. Who doesn't like getting a little sun? It's honestly amazing. It's literally like magic. Our bodies are these live instruments reacting to the live sun. So, what is actually happening when UV light from the sun hits your skin? This is really cool. It refracts like a prism and creates a rainbow through your skin and kind of like inside your body, with the skin as the prism break that creates that triangular rainbow. I'm very visual, as you can tell. So it would look like that. It would look like white light pouring in, and then as it cuts through the skin, refracting and creating a rainbow. And maybe I sound nuts to you guys, but let me know if you've ever seen this on your own skin, that when you get a good tan or a good amount of consistent sun and you look at your skin closely, it almost looks like a rainbow. Like you can see red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Like your skin looks rainbow. I swear I have seen this on myself. Let me know if you have as well. But aside from how cool that is, and as you can tell, I think that's really cool, this process creates over 20 vitamin D-like molecules within our body upon contact. That is just absolutely beautiful. No supplement will give you that, and for free. These supplements can be quite expensive, and our body prefers D3 out of all of the D vitamins, and a lot of the supplements that you buy are just D2. So get this. With every 6 to 10 minutes of sunlight exposure, our body produces 1,000 IUs of vitamin D. I think I have vitamin D2, or maybe I got the good one, D3, in the cabinet, and I'm pretty sure it is only 250 IUs. So 1,000, 4 times that from just 6 to 10 minutes of sun exposure. Free vitamins. When you do this, when you sun yourself, especially in the morning, and I'm going to get into proper timing, you receive all of those vitamins and vitamin D different molecules. You also receive a bunch of antibacterials that fight fungus, parasites, and viruses. And vitamin D is vital for dopamine synthesis, which is one of our happy hormones, which helps, keep mood elevated and even keeled. And it helps boost things like our immune function. It also has a good impact on weight loss and our glucose metabolism and things like insulin. So not only is the best source of vitamin D the sun, but when you do specifically get vitamin D from the sun and expose yourself to the sun, it will convert cholesterol fat in your body into vitamin D. So it's like a triple layered stack of healing benefits. When we hear vitamin D, we think of sun, of course. But I think it's also really important to mention, when we're talking about harnessing the powers of the sun, something that's often overlooked, which is melanin. And when we hear melanin, we just think that's what makes us dark. It's also responsible for giving our eyes their color and our hair color as well. But the little lesser known fact about melanin is it's our body's natural defense against the sun's harmful UV radiation. And you can cultivate more melanin in your body. And when you boost your melanin, you not only boost your ability to make the most out of the sun's benefits, but you defer any negative attributes as well. So melanin is essentially nature's sunscreen. It's like our body's built-in SPF mechanism against sunburns and DNA damage and even skin cancer. So if you get a lot of sun, but you don't have enough melanin, you haven't boosted your melanin through increasing your tolerance to sunlight, which is one of the ways that you can increase your melanin, is through getting sun. If you have been living in a basement for 20 years and you don't have melanin, natural stores of melanin, if you go out in the sun, you will burn likely, and you might increase your risk of getting skin cancer for sure. However, if you have been living in nature, a little bit more of a natural life, even think of people in third world countries who do not have anywhere near as high of incidence of skin cancer. They are just more outdoor lifestyle based. They have a good store of melanin in their body and in their skin. And melanin protects against sun damage, skin cancer, and burns. Melanin doesn't just sit there looking pretty like a tan. It actively absorbs and disperses any harmful UV radiation, shielding our skin from that midday hot sun that can be harmful. So to increase your melanin levels and help tolerate the sunlight better and help decrease your chance of getting skin cancer, ironically, or maybe not ironically, exposure to sunlight is the key. When our skin senses UV radiation, it will trigger our melanocytes. And these are the cells responsible for producing melanin inside of us. And they kick it into gear. And this natural tanning process occurs where our skin darkens as a result of increased melanin production. But it's not just about getting a tan, it's about giving our skin that extra layer of protection that it needs. That is why there are some people who can just go straight from being a little bit pale to being good and tanned, as opposed to being a little bit pale and burning. One of those people has healthy stores of melanin, and one of those people doesn't. There's also other things that may factor in, such as their diet, their environment, the sun exposure that they do get if they're wearing sunglasses or a hat, and I'll get into all of those in a second. But it's not just about getting a tan, getting exposure to sunlight. It's actually giving your skin an extra layer of protection and all of those vitamins, vitamin D, like I was talking about. So if you're wondering how to maybe optimize your melanin levels without overdoing it in the sun, and maybe you are a little bit fearful or you've had skin cancer, and so you have reason to be a little hesitant about overdoing it in the sun, you can naturally support your melanin production using foods that are rich in certain nutrients like vitamin E, vitamin C, and beta carotene. So carrots are actually a really, really great one because these all enhance your melanin production from within. So think leafy greens, think colorful fruits, and antioxidant rich foods like berries and nuts. So yes, if you are a little nervous, you can cover up with clothing or a hat. The last thing I want you to do, though, is wear sunglasses. And I'll get into that in a second. But hats, maybe like wearing more loose clothing, long linen things, and flowing clothes. I'm not really a huge fan of the UFP or like the fabric sunscreen stuff. And I'm not a big fan of sunscreen unless it is a mineral-based sunscreen or a zinc oxide-based sunscreen. But if you are nervous, like I'm saying, peak sun hours, wear a hat maybe, or cover up, or come inside. Especially if you don't already have a healthy AM relationship with the sun where you're getting morning sun and where you have enough melanin stores and you know that you tan when you then get sun instead of burning. You know, we want to enjoy all of the sun's benefits without putting ourselves at risk, because more and more in our society, with our diet and our environment and our habits, we are at more of a risk for overexposure, not because the sun is bad, but because we are consuming bad foods that interact poorly with the sun. But because we are wearing sunglasses, which block our connection between our eyes and our brain, which sends a signal to our skin to block these receptors, which help protect our skin from burns. So wearing sunglasses can actually increase your risk of getting burnt. But I'll get into that in a sec. So this all makes sense to me, right? And maybe it does to you too. Like, I feel happy when I'm in the sun. So it was no surprise to hear some of like the mood boosting things, but it is surprising to hear some more about like the glucose and immune system stuff and how it affects our metabolism and ability to burn fat cells as well. And part of how this happens, or why this happens, is that apparently sunlight improves our gut microbiome. So this is kind of where I'm going to start to get into the color and different versions of sunlight throughout the day. So it will help you to understand how this works. Essentially, us humans are here on Earth, right? And we live in this atmospheric dome. And basically what happens is the sun, you know, we say that it rises and sets. Essentially, obviously, Earth is spinning and things are rotating so that we're only exposed to the sun at certain times. But essentially, when the sun is low in the morning, in those first few hours of the morning, like before 10 a.m., essentially, you are in the reds, oranges, and yellows. That's why sunsets and sunrises can look really, really beautiful and red and vibrant. This is healthy light. This is red light and near infrared light, which, yes, is identical to the red light that you hear about on all of these therapy devices. Even I had a red light healing mask there for a while. I threw it out because it stopped working, but there's a huge industry, red light device industry, and the best source of red and near infrared light happens to be free, which is the sun in the morning and at night. Then, after those hours, think of the rainbow spectrum of light. We go from red, orange, yellow to green, blue, indigo, and violet. And that's where we get into blue light and UV light. And this light is not so healthy. Naturally, from the sun, it isn't necessarily unhealthy. However, artificial blue light is not necessarily healthy. UV light and UV radiation is also not very healthy. I think that's even why in so many cultures there's siestas where it's not to take a nap, it's to get out of the sun when it is at that peak of UV light, because that can be damaging. So back for a second to improving our gut and our microbiome. What happens is when we get sunlight in the red and near infrared territories, so in those morning few hours and in the night few hours, this light structures the water in our mitochondria into a very viscous jelly-like substance, which boosts our energy production. And when our energy production is boosted in this area, it revs our metabolism, our metabolic health obviously increases, and it burns away and helps shrink fat cells. Getting proper sunlight at the proper times is also responsible for setting our circadian rhythm, which is that internal clock that we all have, which ensures that we wake up feeling rested and at the right time, and we feel sleepy at the appropriate time and fall asleep at the right time for our body. And last but certainly not least, and also not the last thing I'll mention on this podcast about the sun at all, but just the last fact-based thing that I was able to find, getting healthy sunlight decreases your chance of getting dementia by, get this, 40%. 40. That's a lot. So our hormone health improves, our brain health improves, our gut health improves, our metabolic health improves. Literally, what an underrated thing getting healthy sunlight is. If you are seeking a strategy to biohack and you aren't getting sunlight, what are you doing? That is one of the first things that should be done, because of the impact on our body systems that it has. Like, it's just so wide of a range on the things that it affects. And I think sunlight can bleed out into other areas too and make healthy living a little bit easier when you think about the lens of, was it made by the sun? And where I'm getting at is diet. I've been looking into a little bit more and thinking about having a diet based around healthy light foods, animals, plants. I think nutrition wise, eating a diet based around healthy light, which would be the opposite of bad light being indoor animals, no natural light, indoor grown veggies, GMO type stuff, monocrops, maybe like indoor greenhouses and stuff. I just feel like that yields food results I don't want to fill my body with. Versus when I think of a diet based around good light, like a pasture cow or some chickens that run around a field, a dairy cow that, is grass fed and lives a long, beautiful life on a sunny farm. All of these animals and plants as well, like a garden grown cucumber from a farmer's market. I want to eat food that was grown by the sun. I want to consume food made and created by the beautiful power source that is the sun. And that's a whole other topic and episode maybe in the future, but I just thought I would throw that in there as a little fun aside. But listen, besides the benefits, besides my little diet tangent, I think what really gets me with a lot of health related topics, and the sun included, is the issues or the imbalances that happen when you don't get enough. Because as you guys know, I've lived so long in lack. I've lived in restrictive land. And instead of making sure I got all of the good stuff, I just made sure that I avoided the bad stuff. So stuff like this was just not really ever on my radar, because it wasn't a bad thing to avoid. It was a good thing I didn't know to get enough of. But now that it's been on my radar, and it's been on my radar for, I would say, the past 2 years. And why I know that is because I purchased a domain called sun.me, SSUN.me. I purchased a domain and had a whole plan to create a brand that was going to be a natural sunscreen oil, like an SPF red raspberry oil. And I'll get into a list of plant oils that have SPF properties, but red raspberry oil has an SPF of 48. So I was going to create a SPF oil and have a community or a podcast or a blog that was about the benefits of the sun. But As someone who has a lot of ideas, I didn't run with that ball. That's one of 20 balls that I have just sitting there. So, hey, if you're listening and you're inspired to run with this ball and you would like me to sell you the domain, I can also help create the logo and the website. I can design Shopify themes and customize them. I have worked as a designer for 15 years. That's what I did before doing this podcast and before becoming a yoga teacher and even a TV host. That's my roots, is in creative stuff. So if you want to run with the ball of sun, that's another aside for you. But basically, I've learned a lot in the last 2 years about sun, both because I feel like I've intuitively been in the sun more and enjoyed the sun and have wanted to sunbathe. And then subsequently wanting to ensure that that wasn't harming me, that this intuitive practice I had of wanting the sun more, now that I have a house that has a deck, and that's kind of something that I see animals do and I feel like wanting to do. I wanted to see, is there something to that? Is this true? When the cat follows the sun all day in the memes that we see online, and when my dog lays out in the sun, if it was harmful, they wouldn't do that, right? I want to do this too. So what is behind that? And I've spent 2 years looking into a lot of this stuff that's in this episode. But let's just jump back right in, because I just went on 2 little tirades. But basically, I've now learned that lack of sunlight, as I've seen with the research, can make you feel and look like shit. And one of the most harmful things that you can do for your eyes, and one of the things that we use to combat the sun and avoid the sun, are sunglasses. So I want to go off on sunglasses, and I do feel a little apprehensive saying this. But anyways, I'm going to say it because I'm trying to help. Sunglasses are not good for your eyes or the health of your vision. Obviously, it's not good to stare into the sun midday when it's at its peak, but getting sun in your eyes without a black filter in front of it, or even a polarized filter or anything, is one of the healthiest things that you can do. So I'm bringing Dr. Barbara O'Neill back into the mix. I've mentioned her on a previous podcast, and I will be mentioning her again. You may have heard of her, and if you haven't and you aren't familiar, she is a naturopathic doctor who has recently been essentially ostracized and banned in Australia because of her holistic messages. I'm not sure if she was also jailed or if she was just in court, maybe to be jailed over bringing this education to the public. I'm not sure the whole story there, but essentially she's now in the US and is spreading her teachings and knowledge here. And so in my circles, she's been all over TikTok and Instagram, not personally her, but people who have clipped her content or shared things that she said, like I'm about to share here now, because what she knows and the things she shares are everything that I am about, and everything that I feel like we're discovering to be true about healing with nature and using plants and being in harmony with earth and not with synthetic chemicals or pharmaceuticals or drugs. I just feel like I don't know, the timing is right. Once again, it's the light ages. Maybe this is why this is happening. Sure, one door closed in Australia, and it just opened a dozen more doors for her of people who are now passionate about sharing her message that was trying to be hushed. We won't stand for that anymore. You try to burn the witch in this time, it's not going to work. The people she has helped will make sure of that. I feel like her getting banned only put more energy and excitement behind her work. Here's what she has to say about sunglasses. Like I was saying, sunglasses are not good for the eyes. Our eyes are an extension of our brain. If you go outside on a hot, sunny day, the strength of the sun will communicate to your eyes that it's hot and sunny out. Then your eyes transfer that information to your brain. And if your brain doesn't get that message because you're wearing sunglasses, which are blocking the light, your brain will then fail to send the signal to your skin to close up the receptors to help prevent burning and damage from the sun. When you wear sunglasses and you trick your body and your mind into not knowing that there is hot sun present, your skin receptors remain open, and that's why you are more likely to get a burn on a day that you are wearing sunglasses over not. So cool. I think, of course, there's a time and a place for sunglasses. Like if there's a glary road or that's wet or you're in the snow, in the mountains or something, you need sunglasses for sure because of the glare can actually burn your eyes. And this is why sunglasses were invented by our ancestors. If you look up old ancient sunglasses, you'll find that they were for snow. It was for people in the alpine, and it was carved out of bone, and it was just these little slits so that you could still see, but you didn't burn your eyes from the glare of the sun on the snow. And so while I'm on the topic of glasses, and since I'm bouncing all over the place as per usual, I may as well mention that UV blockers, blue light blocking glasses, are also a really great idea to wear in the morning and in the evenings. And why you want to do this is to keep out UV and blue light at times when it wouldn't naturally be present. So why do you need to block it if it's not there naturally from the sun? Well, because it is streaming at us from all of our devices. All of our screens, computers, phones emit blue or UV light, which your body would never be exposed to in nature at times when we now expose it to it. Like we will see this UV or blue light in the morning and at night. And what that is doing to our hormones is confusing the ever-living shit out of them. They don't know what to produce when, things are spiking at the wrong times. And this wreaks havoc on everything. This is why we end up getting discombobulated. And so because I'm someone who does watch TV at night and who does get on their computer after I go for my morning walk and I get my morning sun, which I'll get into in a second as well. But something I did purchase was blue light blocking glasses. I also have True Dark glasses, which are from Dave Asprey's line. Or sorry, they are Dave Asprey's company. And if you're familiar with Dave Asprey, he is the father of biohacking. And I really like these. They're quite comfortable and they aren't too distracting, even though they are yellow and cast yellow. And you pretty much see everything through a little bit of a yellow tint. I actually really like that they even out the light. So the warm light in my cabin matches what it looks like outside, which then kind of matches the same as my devices and my screens. So I'm a big fan. I also like that they're metal. So I'm a big fan. And what I notice when I wear these is not just that I look cool, but I do actually feel calmer when I'm on my screens. It kind of evens out the light, which I feel like just helps put less strain on your eyes. And when you have less strain on your eyes, you hold less tension in your face and in your eyes, which then I think helps the beautification of my face, because as we know from the fascia episode, when we're holding tension, we're creating wrinkles. And I've been guilty of, if I do wrinkle, it's like crow's feet area. And I think it's because I've been guilty of being on my screen a ton. I've been a designer for years where literally 12 hours on my screen is totally normal. And maybe I'm not getting enough input from the natural light and it's too much blue UV light. And so I'm like tensing my eyes and causing all my little crow's feet. So back to sunlight and ensuring that the first light you see in the morning is from the sun and not a screen. So this is how we have healthy sun exposure. This is how you also build melanin without having unhealthy exposure during midday when you don't have enough stores. Sun gazing, okay? You want to sun gaze in the morning and in the evening if you can, but definitely in the morning because that also has other benefits. Whereas I'm not sure if the evening also does circadian benefits as well, but I just think about the fact that in the morning, you're help setting up your clock for going to bed at night. So it's like a double whammy. So sun gazing in the morning allows your body to know what is going on and how to react. If you're looking at your phone first thing, your body is seeing all of this UV blue light. And so your body is going to think it is noon and it is going to halt your cortisol response. Whereas typically you want your cortisol to rise in the morning with the natural sunlight because that's going to kickstart your like rev and get going energy. When you look at your phone first thing, why it's hard to get out of bed is because your cortisol isn't triggered and it then slows down that whole process and pushes it more to noon. And what happens when we push our cortisol spike and rise to around noon, the effects that cortisol has on us midday is creating anxiety and depressiveness. Isn't that interesting? Meanwhile, when we have cortisol in the morning, it creates get up and go energy. So all of these artificial lights and inputs are really screwing with our biological process. And, I think a lot of us can think, yeah, that just means bad sleep or being groggy or wired. Like, I can deal with that. But it's deeper. Like I was saying, it's your hormones, which pretty much make up how you feel at any given time, for better or worse. Like cortisol, which is a hormone. Like testosterone, which is a hormone. Like dopamine, which is a hormone, your happy hormone. And sunlight increases your dopamine, right? So looking at your phone first thing without UV or blue light blocking glasses is really not good for your eyes or your internal systems or your internal clock or hormones. And as we're finding out, a ton of autoimmune diseases are actually caused by hormone imbalances. So when I even reflect on my own autoimmune disease, getting diagnosed with Hashimoto's in 2015, there's a really great chance when I reflect that Hashimoto's was triggered perhaps by my heavy screen time and by this lifestyle of not getting healthy sunlight. Throughout my 20s, I didn't go to bed until maybe like 11 or 12. Then I would wake up at 8 or 9 and I would jump straight onto my device. Add to that, I wasn't speaking or expressing myself properly. And then I was like spraying my neck with toxic perfume. Rarely walking in nature. Like maybe a few times a month, I did a long walk in nature. And otherwise, I was sitting in on a screen a lot. And I think why I had Hashimoto's then and why my blood work shows that it is not present at all, despite not being on medication, is because I flipped my lifestyle. I'm walking outside in nature now every single day. I'm getting proper sunlight, whereas before I got on a screen, that was my morning light. I'm going to bed at 9 p.m. and I'm waking up at 6. I'm up when I'm up. Like when I get up in the morning, it's not 6 a.m. and I'm rolling out of bed, forcing myself up. I'm typically lying there like, okay, let's go. Let's get this day going. And that's why I think my blood work is showing perfect thyroid function and levels. And I'm really proud of that. And I have the sun to thank. I have all of these little natural practices to thank. And what I love all about this even more is that it is free, right? Like just making a few different choices a week can really impact things. And something, to go off topic again, that I have become a little more conscious of is my cortisol. And over the last month, I've been able to take my resiliency score on my Aura app, Aura app, from a limited resiliency to solid bordering on strong. Yay. And before I leave the topic of sun gazing in the morning, I think it's important to mention, although I don't have any data to back this one up, that there are some people who claim that sun gazing has helped them regain their eyesight. People who have worn glasses or contacts in the past have mentioned that just by sun gazing for a few years, a few minutes a morning, helped them so that they have perfect 20/20 vision again. So what is the best way to get healthy sun? How do you boost your melanin naturally so that it helps you prevent burning and helps you tan and get all of the benefits from the sun and none of the harm? Go outside before 10 a.m. And also then allowing your eyes to see that sun, the before 10 a.m. sun, especially in the first hour of the day, like that really, really warm red infrared light. Get it in your eyes. I have light blue eyes, so I'm someone who midday finds it really, really bright. So I'm trying to do a practice more where I am making sure that I'm looking at the sun first thing in the morning. And it's been a good 6 months. And let me tell you, I haven't gone blind. There has been zero harm. I haven't burned my eyes. So be discerning and use discretion. Obviously, you could take any of this too far, and I'm sure people listening out of context would maybe do so. But I hope you understand where I'm coming from, that getting that early morning sunlight, the red and near infrared light, is what's important. And if you want to take it a step further, if you want to go barefoot and ground with the earth while you're getting your morning sun, chef's freaking kiss. You know why? Because you're going to get a double whammy. The sun is a positive charge, which brings energy to your body. And when you are earthing, the earth is a negative charge. And so it is helping eliminate inflammation and toxins through the feet as you're charging through the top of your body with the sun. Like if we are these antennas and these plants, we are doing exactly what that plant would do. when we ground on the earth and we sun our skin. And I should also mention that this practice will get you in a parasympathetic healing state. So your body can't heal if it's not in a parasympathetic state. And this practice will do that right off the top of the day for you. It also gives you an increased focused alertness, and it strengthens your immune system. So like, what a better way to start the day? What armor to go into every day with? And it's fun. It's not like it's expensive or annoying. It's free and it's available right there. While you're having your morning glass of water or coffee or breakfast or whatever you're doing. As you're putting on your makeup, as your tea is brewing, spend 10 minutes outside to start your day off. What a hack. I think that is really important to know, that what you are eating has a direct impact on then how you are reacting to something that would naturally not react that way if you were eating healthy. We're finally exploring diet, and specifically how diet and toxins ends up causing most of the incidence of skin cancer. What you are eating is vital. You want to avoid seed oils, industrial seed oils, and avoid starches and sugars and processed foods as much as possible. Seed oils, as opposed to ghee or butter or animal fats, are laden with acids. And these cause inflammation and acidity in our bodies, which is not just bad inside of our bodies wreaking havoc, but seed oils sit just underneath the surface of the skin. And when this reacts to UV light, it acts basically as a magnifying glass. So someone can actually get burnt and get skin cancer and be more at risk of adverse sun reactions if they do all of the wrong things to be in the sun, such as eating a diet full of seed oils. So there are things that we are doing that make us intolerant of the sun. And that's really what's going on here. And that's the thing we're not talking about. But, what we eat is not all to blame. I think sometimes I can be rough on us, like, we need to eat better. But also, some of it's not our fault. Some of it is just environmental toxins. In the last century, we have been exposed to 80,000 new chemicals and toxins. That is a ton. And who knows the effect that that is having on our body, which is then interacting with the elements and the sun. Right? So much goes into this, and it's obviously a really complicated subject. All things to consider. And one thing I haven't yet even brought up, which is definitely important to look into, but quite honestly, I don't know enough about it because I don't use it, is sunscreen. From what I understand and from what I know and from what I feel, most sunscreen is toxic and causing issues, not helping in any way protect from anything. I haven't used it in years. I haven't burnt in years. I have been tanning ever since I've started bringing some of these practices into my life without even really knowing. So there's a lot that goes into this. And the last thing I want to mention basically is that if you are somebody who uses sunscreen or who wears sunglasses or wears hats, or you can't be out in the sun and you burn, I am not in any way ever judging anybody, because I've been there. I used to actually wear glasses. I don't know if you know this, but maybe from even just my walks and being on the West Coast and being more in the sun, I've found over the last 7 years, I have gone from having prescription glasses. I used to own 25 pairs of glasses. I've thrown them all out. My eyesight, I haven't had it tested, mind you. I have no idea if I'm 20/20, but I know what my eyesight was like before, especially at night. I had really bad night blindness, and now I have absolutely no problem seeing anything, and I haven't worn glasses in years. And so I say all of this out of love and because I want to help you guys, because I've been there. I've also been somebody who once lied out on a beach for an hour and got so bloody red. And now I'm at a point where I can lie out for hours and the only thing that happens is I tan, because I've started to learn how to understand some of this stuff and how to naturally increase my tolerance for the sun and build my melanin levels, which has allowed me to now be in the sun and tan when I'm exposed to the sun, and ward against any of the harmful things that the sun can do, because I'm not discounting that the sun is stronger. If you understand anything about the sun cycle and where we are in an age where the sun is increased in activity and flares and heat and global warming. Everything is in a cycle. So I trust where we're at. I am not so afraid of things. I'm just trying to live a little bit more naturally and also with no judgment. If there are times when I do want to cover up or you do want to cover up, I own sunglasses. I'll wear them from time to time. In the past, I wore them more as a fashion accessory, literally like full time year round. Now, I probably wear sunglasses for, I want to say like 1 hour total of every couple months. I know it's kind of like a weird thing to quantify, but I try and have my raw eyes under the raw sun as much as possible because I finally understand why I felt like shit before. It was all of these bad practices. And as a sensitive person, I feel them and I notice them. And now that I'm not doing these things, I feel great. And so that's why I'm sharing this. That's why I'm talking today about the sun, because personally, it has been something that has helped me huge. It's one of the reasons why I even wanted to buy this house as opposed to any others available, because of the sunlight we get here, the ability to grow food under the sun, the ability for me to sun myself on the deck. Piper loves the sun. There's a reason why animals follow the strips of sun and you see those memes online, right? There's a reason why our ancestors and animals don't get quite as high incidence of skin cancer as we have now. That's increased. And maybe we have to look at the correlations of what else has increased. Seed oils, processed foods, use of sunglasses and hats and sun protective everything, fear-mongering of the sun itself. Maybe we can question some of these things a little bit. Just saying. Anyways, my sunshines, I had a ton of fun chatting about the sun with you guys. I was actually really discouraged at the start of this because I already recorded this entire episode. Anyways, you guys don't care, but I did. And this was my first redo and retake, and that's how it was meant to be, and I should have just not mentioned anything. Anyways, next week I will be coming to you guys from Tofino on the beach. So excited for that. I had so much fun recording last week's episode. That was like a little bit more all over the place with multiple topics. And so the note that I already have started with next week's episode topics. Wow. Talk about just going on different tangents. My gosh. I'm looking forward to it though. We're going to be staying right on the beach, me, Mike, and Piper in an Airstream. So it will be our first living in a trailer experience for about 10 days. And then once we're back from Tofino, I start teaching full time. Full time. Full time means every Wednesday full time. All of the other 6 days a week, I will be doing my own thing as per usual. But I'm really excited to have that steady practice of both teaching yoga and doing one-on-ones and coming up with classes and kind of being challenged in that way again. So stoked to talk about all of the things. And until then, I hope you guys have a beautiful week. You enjoy some morning sunshine. You maybe question your use of sunglasses a little bit. And let me leave you. I want to leave you with a couple natural plant oils that have SPF. So if you did want to take me up on this sun.me company and you wanted to use red raspberry seed oil as a SPF body oil, red raspberry seed oil has an SPF of 58. Isn't that beautiful? The next SPF of 40, which is also really high, comes from carrot seed oil. And if you're familiar with my Moisture Miracle face cream that I create through and sell on Healer, I use carrot seed oil because it is so good for your skin. It's really hydrating. It also has an SPF, so you're protected from the sun. So when I put on my moisturizer in the morning and I go walk out in the sun for hours, I'm not concerned because that carrot seed oil is helping protect my face. If I have had some seed oils in my diet, the carrot seed will help me. At an SPF of 22, you'll find wheat germ oil. And then this surprised me. I had no idea. Avocado oil, SPF of 15. Shea butter has an SPF of 10. And then coconut oil and olive oil both have an SPF of 8. if you want another one, almond oil has an SPF of 5, and I'll end it there. I could keep going, but basically, there's no need to rub carcinogenic lotions and sprays all over you. So this one, I am also saying out of love, but tough love. If you're wearing sunscreen, if you're a sunscreen wearer, maybe just do an inventory of your sunscreens and think about how much more lovely would the practice of slathering some shea butter over your body would be, or getting a beautifully nutritious body oil made of some of these oils. If you're looking for suppliers for good, healthy plant oils, feel free to email or DM me or leave a comment, and I'll share my resource there as well, because all the power to the plants. But anyways, I will see you guys next week. I could keep going on about plants and sun and nature, but gotta end it somewhere. So I will leave you guys there and take care. Ta-ta for now. Bye. As a member of my podcast, you have no idea how much it means to have your support. And if you would consider sending or sharing any episode with a friend or loved one, I would appreciate it so much. And don't forget to use code EVERY7 at healer.ca, HEELR.ca. That is my personal brand for you to get 30% off of your entire order.